colleagues, I declare open the 9th meeting of the COP29, the 9th meeting of CMP19, and the 9th meeting of the CMA6. As we continue with the national statements, I would like to remind representatives of the measures in place for effective time management, specifically the 3-minute time limit for statements during the high-level segment. Please remember that statements should be as concise as possible, as the full text will be made available on the UNFCCC website. Speaking slots for those not present in the plenary during their scheduled delivery time will be moved to the end of all statements within the same category. Dear colleagues, let us begin. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Bojan Kumar, Minister of Environment, Climate and Energy of Slovenia. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the critical second week of negotiations in Baku. Time is short, and our message must be clear. The goal of 1.5 degrees is still achievable. Negative impacts of climate crisis are ever more intense and frequent all over the world. We cannot delay decisive actions any longer. Last year's milestone global stocktake agreement showed us the way forward. A strong multilateral approach grounded in a scientific evidence is the only way forward. This decade is critical. We must cut emissions fast. To truly embark on this path, we must fully implement last year's global stocktake decision, including the energy package. In addition, further efforts for transitioning away from fossil fuels and addressing the challenge of subsidies for fossil fuels should be made. Slovenia is acting. We have set the long-term goal of climate neutrality by 2050 and are currently preparing our first national climate law, which will set the legal framework for more decisive climate action. We are even exploring opportunities to achieve neutrality earlier. Understanding the importance of finance for climate action in developing countries and the need for solidarity, Slovenia increased its climate financing by almost 40% in 2023, while respecting the commitment to double adaptation finance. We have also pledged to raise our contribution to the Green Climate Fund by 150%, and will support the Loss and Damage Fund. We recognize the climate crisis is also a security question. That's why climate security is one of the priorities for Slovenia as non-permanent member of the UN UN Security Council. Climate justice must underpin our collective action. Gender equality and a human rights-based approach in climate negotiations and wider climate action at national level is of key importance. The right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment is of key importance for sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, before departing for Baku, I asked Slovenian youth delegate what she would like to share with this plenary. Her message is urgent. For young people, 2030 and 2050 are not distant milestones. They are our future, and they are fast approaching. We are closely observing the current situation and are worried because the window for effective change is closing rapidly. We urge leaders to ensure this year's COP's results in concrete steps forward, rather than becoming another opportunity to negotiate business interests. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Kichiro Sao, Minister of the Environment of Japan. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished delegates, first of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the Republic of Azerbaijan for its efforts in hosting COP29. At this COP, it is expected to reach consensus on an NCQG. Japan has contributed to global efforts in climate finance. Specifically, Japan pledged $70 billion public and private support for action to deal with climate change in developing countries over the 5 years until 2025. And we are steadily working to achieve this goal. It is necessary to arrange a framework in which the international community contributes to climate change measures in a cooperative manner, particularly contributions from countries with the capacity to do so and the mobilization of private sector funds are essential for achieving the 1.5-degree goal. More than 30 years have passed since the UNFCCC was adopted in 1992, and the global economy has changed significantly. The NCQG must take this reality into account. Regarding mitigation, in light of last year's decision on the global stocktake, Japan calls on all parties to economy-wide emission reduction targets, including all greenhouse gases, sectors, and categories that are consistent with the 1.5 goal and based on the latest science. We also call on, among other things, major economies to set up absolute emission reduction targets. Furthermore, we stress that it is essential to include strong messages to advance mitigation efforts, including following up mitigation part of global stocktake decision. Japan is continuing its efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emission in line with its current NDC and net zero by 2050. We will accelerate our work toward the submission of our next NDC by next February, an NDC that is ambitious and consistent with the 1.5-degree goal. Japan announced the corporate action for NDC implementation and transparency enhancement, and will promote actions internationally so that parties can steadily implement mitigation measures based on their NDC, ensure transparency, and share their progress globally. Finally, Japan would like to emphasize that the success of this COP requires the decision on the detailed operational rules of Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. Article 6 is intended for the establishment of high-quality carbon market, encouragement of mobilization of private finance for decarbonization technologies, and expansion of mitigation efforts worldwide through international cooperation. Japan will contribute to the decarbonization of the world through the Joint Crediting Mechanism, or JCM. I call upon all parties to work together to bring COP29 to a success. Let us continue our steadfast mitigation efforts toward the 1.5-degree goal. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Mr. Mohammed bin Mubarak bin Leone, Minister of Oil and Environment of Bahrain. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, I would like to extend my deep appreciation to Azerbaijan for their generous hospitality and hosting. Your Excellencies, now is time for action. As a low-lying island, Bahrain contributes less than 0.1% of global greenhouse gases emissions, yet we choose to lead by example. Under the vision and leadership of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa and the Crown Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, Bahrain set progressive goals across the climate agenda. On mitigation, we have set an ambitious nationwide commitment to reduce our emissions by 2035 and achieve net zero by 2060. Correspondingly, we have developed a national energy strategy, uniting key private and public stakeholders to ensure success. Our targets to adopt are equally as bold. We have set targets to double the Kingdom trees coverage and quadruple its mangrove coverage. To address the pressing challenges of mobilizing finance that besets adaptation action globally, we proactively developed a national adaptation investment plan that identify innovation financing options to bring our vision to life. In addition to this, we have developed a comprehensive national strategy that ensures our coastal resilience and protects all 946 kilometers of our coastline. Your Excellencies, Bahrain stands ready to share its insight and experience with the world. We are doing our role. But let us be clear, climate change is a global challenge that requires global solutions. We must restore faith in multilateralism, where the developed countries continue to take lead in climate actions. Enablers such as finance, technology, and capacity building are provided for all developing countries to achieve their targets. The urgency we face implores us to deliver. We can't forget what we built in Paris. We must act in Baku and beyond. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Sergej Velmse, Minister of Environment, Climate and Biodiversity of Luxembourg. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Monsieur le Président, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, je tiens d'abord à remercier la République d'Azerbaïdjan pour son accueil à Bakou. Le temps presse plus que jamais si nous voulons maîtriser la crise climatique et ses conséquences. Pour Luxembourg, ce n'est qu'en retrouvant l'esprit de Rio et en acceptant qu'en matière de climat et de biodiversité, tout est lié à tout que nous pourrons le faire. Les 3 COP successifs, Cali, Baku, Riyad, nous permettront de consolider une fois pour toutes la volonté politique, non seulement en matière d'ambition climatique, mais en matière d'ambition planétaire. Une volonté partagée par une large majorité des partis. Une volonté politique très attendue par la société civile, les entreprises et surtout la jeunesse. Et je suis très fier que pour la première fois, le Luxembourg est aussi représenté par 2 délégués jeunes du climat. Le Global Stocktake de la COP28 a été le fruit d'efforts considérables. Il devra maintenant se traduire par des actions concrètes dans les contributions déterminées au niveau national, NDC, mises à jour en amont de la COP30. En attendant, il est important que les décisions que nous adopterons à Bakou reflètent clairement le suivi que la communauté mondiale compte donner au Global Stocktake. À côté du volet atténuation, il est évident que le nouvel objectif collectif quantifié NCQG sera un élément déterminant de l'héritage de la COP29. Avec 220 millions d'euros répartis sur 5 ans entre 2021 et 2025, le Luxembourg est déjà à l'heure actuelle un contributeur majeur au financement international à la lutte contre le changement climatique. Dans ce contexte, je suis fier d'annoncer que le gouvernement luxembourgeois vient de décider d'augmenter de 100 millions d'euros cette enveloppe pour le prochain cycle quinquennal. Avec 320 millions d'euros répartis entre 2026 et 2030, nous mettrons à disposition des pays en développement avec une attention particulière aux pays les plus vulnérables des ressources supplémentaires importantes. Nous continuerons également de miser sur des instruments de financement innovants qui permettront de mobiliser des capitaux privés importants avec nos fonds publics. Monsieur le Président, je me permets d'insister sur un point, car c'est un élément qui distingue le Luxembourg. Notre enveloppe du financement climatique international de 320 millions d'euros continuera d'être additionnelle à notre aide publique au développement. Cette dernière s'élevant à 1% de notre revenu national brut. Solidarité et ambition sont les maîtres mots, pas seulement lors de cette COP29, mais tout au long de la période qui nous mènera à la neutralité climatique et à une plus grande résilience face au changement climatique. Je confirme que le Luxembourg est à la hauteur de ces attentes Vous pouvez compter sur nous. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Mr. Cozier Frederick, Minister of Environment, Rural Modernization, Kalinago Upliftment and Constituency Empowerment of Dominica. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Excellencies, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to the COP presidency and the Republic of Azerbaijan on behalf of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Thank you for your support, kindness, and hospitality. Dominica, like all small island developing states, are among the most vulnerable to impacts of climate change. Today, I present on behalf of a country that has one of the highest GDP losses due to climate-related disasters. We are facing major threats despite contributing minimally to global greenhouse gases emission. Increased frequency of extreme weather events directly jeopardize our ecosystems, our economy, and the everyday lives of our people. The impact on us is profound, affecting our national food security and tourism, all of which are essential aspects of our development and stability. As a frontline island in the climate crisis, we underscore the urgency for ambitious global action and for stronger financial support for adaptation and resilience. This will safeguard our future and preserve our unique natural and cultural features. Whenever major events affect us, we always use our limited financial resources. Dominica has invested heavily in building resilience, infrastructure, and human capacity, with the vision of being the world's first climate-resilient nation in the world. This was on the heels of Hurricane Maria, which destroyed 226% of our GDP overnight in 2017. In response, we have mainstreamed resilience across the public sector and created policies to guide us. We have also invested in geothermal energy as an alternative to fossil fuels. All of these are expensive ventures. Dominica call on all of us to address pivotal areas in global climate policy. We must set a new climate finance goal to replace the previous 100 billion annual target. We support the Caribbean community continued call for doubling of climate finance from 2019 levels by 2025 in accordance with the Paris Agreement. We are not satisfied with the Adaptation Fund falling short of its contribution targets and developed countries not staying true to their pledge of doubling their contributions. We must also build on the foundation of the Loss and Damage Fund established at COP28 to enhance its financial reach and operational structure. We also call for transparent, inclusive, and accessibility process to these funds. This will facilitate quality, quick, and effective assistance to all of us hardest hit. Dominica supports all countries represented here who empathize and emphasize transition from adaptation planning to implementation. We're also mindful that this COP coincides with global efforts addressing biodiversity, COP16, and land degradation, COP16 Riyadh. These promote a holistic approach that ties climate action to ecosystem health and community resilience. In the end, we must all seek to boost commitments while also enhancing financial and structural support for sustainable development and climate resilience. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome Her Excellency Ms. Svetlana Grinchuk, Minister of Environmental Protection and National resources of Ukraine. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Mr. President, Your Excellencies, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, let me express my sincere gratitude to the people of the Republic of Azerbaijan and Baku City for their hospitality and excellent organization of this 29th Conference of the Parties. It is my honor also to thank the Republic of Azerbaijan for providing humanitarian assistance to Ukraine during this difficult time of our fight for the freedom and sovereignty. Your Excellencies, this COP in Baku is taking place during very difficult times for all Ukrainians. My country is fighting against illegal Russian invasion. This war is killing civilians, destroying residential housing, infrastructure, industry, and energy system of Ukraine right now. Even during this COP, Russia conducted one of the most severe attacks on Ukraine's energy system on November 17, 2024. Moreover, unique ecosystems had been continuously destroyed. Nature and ecosystem became hostage of Russian war aggression. Ukraine's freedom fight is a vital contribution to the global security and stability. And even during this difficult time of war and destructions, Ukraine is working on its nationally determined contribution to the Paris Agreement, and we plan to submit it on time next year. Ukraine NDC 3.0 will represent our investment plan and has been set by UNFCCC Executive Secretary. It will outline Ukraine's green recovery plan for all sovereign territories. New NDC will cover all sectors and gases, including forestry, that has been heavily damaged by Russian aggressive war. The war already impacted 3 million hectares of Ukrainian forests. Due to the ongoing forest fires caused by Russian military actions, the greenhouse gas absorption potential of Ukrainian forests has decreased by 1.7 million tons of CO2. Nature knows no borders, so it will have negative impact on the neighbor countries and on food supply chain around the world. However, despite the ongoing war, Ukraine is already acting on forest restoration. Over 3 years, Ukraine had planted more than 100 million trees under afforestation and reforestation program. Ukrainian unique biodiversity and ecosystems suffering from military action. There are already 17 wetlands at risk that have unique biodiversity and are protected under the Ramsar Convention. Ukraine is committed to global climate agenda despite Russian war actions. Ukraine has adopted legally binding 2050 net zero emissions target in October 2024. This green transition pathway will require tremendous efforts from our private sector and government. Green climate finance and investment success will be key for planning and implementation of net zero policies. Ukrainian climate neutrality policies will also include significant demining actions. As Russian military actions had made Ukraine one of the most mined countries in the world. The area of Ukraine affected by mines is 174,000 square kilometers. This is twice the size of Azerbaijan. Ukrainian plans on green energy transition and economy decarbonization will be incorporated in NDC 3.0. Moreover, Ukraine is updating its national long-term low-emission development strategy. Again, implementation of adequate climate green recovery actions is subject to access to additional long-term predictable climate finance. Baku outcomes on new collective quantified goal on climate finance should reflect on common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities in the light of different and evolving national circumstances. Bordering of the donors base is crucial, as it would help to achieve maximum ambition on finance goal and lead to just transition of countries and societies. I am sure that only joint and collective efforts of global community will lead us to safe, sustainable, and resilient world. Ukraine is committed to global climate agenda and will continue to be a reliable partner for sustainable growth, stability, and resilience. Ukraine's peace formula, item 8, on environmental security demonstrates our strong commitment to vital issue of sustainable development and recovery. Excellencies, last but not least, Ukraine is deeply concerned about the environmental integrity of the Paris Agreement and the Convention. Is undermined and compromised by unlawful reporting of Russia on sovereign territories of Ukraine. This creates a precedent and compromising Paris Agreement enhanced transparency framework and global stocktake outcomes. This is absolutely transparency and reliability of global efforts on combating climate change. This must be resolved under the UNFCCC and Paris Agreement. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Mr. Lars Agard Muller, Minister of Climate, Energy and Utility of Denmark. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in 2020, Denmark sets its 2030 target to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 70%. At the time, it seemed like an almost impossible task. We started with the lowest hanging fruits: rollout of renewable energy, wind, solar, biomethane, fast increase in e-mobility, energy efficiency, and CCS, tools that are available for most countries. But these tools, mostly in the energy sector, can only take us so far. We still have to cut additional emissions to reach our goal. We have to cut emissions from the agricultural sector. This summer, something amazing happened in Denmark. A somewhat odd group of people got together: farmers, trade unions, employers, organizations, a national NGO for nature conservation, and the government. Most often, such a group would not agree on climate and natural issues. But despite conflicting interests, we kept the conversation going, and we agreed to a deal. The group agreed on the biggest restructuring of the Danish landscape in recent time. We will convert farmland into forest at scale, more nature. In order to walk the last mile towards the 70% reduction target, we had to break new ground. We have done this with the first in the world climate tax on agriculture. It helps us to cut the needed emissions. And we will do it with a focus on jobs and affordable food. With the backing of a broad coalition in our parliament on Monday, we reached a political agreement that brings a basis for the decision so we can bring it into life. We found a way, but we know it's not as easy as it sounds. One of the biggest challenges to climate action is polarization. We must take people's concerns seriously, because we can never let climate be either or. Nature versus farmers, the big cities versus rural communities, rich versus poor. It is possible to find constructive, innovative solutions, but it requires trust. This is what is the very heart of just transition. We also build trust between countries here. Finance is key to that. We need a new goal on climate finance, an ambitious and achievable goal that paves the way for new NDCs and more climate action. The next round of NDCs is crucial, and we count on the G20 to take the lead. Denmark is also committed to being among the leaders in delivering on the new financial goal. But others must also follow. This includes countries that have evolved into high income and major emitters since 1992. Now allow me to share a few words on behalf of the Faroe Islands and Greenland. Climate change is threatening the Faroe Islands from the deep seas to the mountains. Global emissions must drop, and adaptation efforts needs to boost to protect our onshore and marine ecosystem to ensure a sustainable future. Further west, the Inuit indigenous people of Greenland are vulnerable to climate change and experience some of the worst consequences. But Greenland is also a country of climate solutions with great renewable energy potential, dedicated to fight climate change. I'm proud of entered the Paris Agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Mr. Joe Emmanuel Abdullahi, Minister of Environment and Climate Change of Sierra Leone. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the government and people of Sierra Leone, I wish to express our deepest gratitude to the UNFCCC and the government of Azerbaijan for hosting this pivotal 29th Conference of Parties in Baku. We gather here at a critical juncture where our collective commitment to climate action must be stronger and more resolute than ever. Sierra Leone, like many other least developing countries, remains highly vulnerable to the devastating impacts of climate change. Our communities face threats of increasing climate variability, biodiversity loss, economic vulnerability, making urgent climate action and robust international support imperative. Sierra Leone has demonstrated unwavering commitments to global climate goals. We have made significant strides in advancing climate action through formulation of policies, community-based initiatives, and strategic partnerships. Our updated NDCs outline ambitious targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and strengthen our climate resilience. Central to our efforts is the prioritization of adaptation and mitigation strategies that safeguard our people, protect our natural ecosystems, and promote sustainable development. Sierra Leone has implemented several initiatives aimed at building resilience against climate impact. We're enhancing our early warning systems, improving disaster management, and promoting climate-smart agricultural practices to protect the livelihoods of our farmers. Our coastal zones, which are at risk of severe erosion and flooding, are also receiving attention through nature-based solutions and mangrove restoration projects. However, the scale and urgency of these challenges require greater international collaboration and financial resources. Our country is committed to transitioning to a low-carbon economy, despite our negligible contribution to global emissions. We're seeking investment in renewable energy projects, including solar and hydro, to improve energy access while minimizing environmental impact. Reforestation initiatives are also underway, contributing to carbon sequestration and biodiversity conservation. Yet these efforts can only be sustained with scaled up and adequate climate finance and technology transfer. Sierra Leone acknowledges the progress made in mobilizing climate finance, but significant gaps remain. The availability of finance is vital for implementing our ambitious climate actions. We call for more equitable and transparent allocation of resources, ensuring that vulnerable nations receive the support needed to adapt to climate change and mitigate its impact. The Sierra Leone strongly supports the establishment of a more ambitious and effective finance framework under NCQG. We expect a framework that's adequate and predictable funding, that's accessible with fair allocation, prioritization for adaptation, and support for loss and damage. As an LDC, Sierra Leone's capacity to respond to climate change remains constrained by finance, infrastructure deficits, and the socio-economic impact of the climate crisis. We reaffirm our commitment to the principles of the Paris Agreement and the pursuit of climate justice. We stand ready to collaborate with regional organizations and international partners. Mr. President, in conclusion, our shared future depends on our collective action today. Sierra Leone remains hopeful that COP29 will deliver ambitious outcomes grounded in solidarity and a recognition of the unique vulnerabilities faced by countries like ours. Together, we can build a world where our children and future generations inherit a planet that is resilient, equitable, and thriving. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Simonas Kentvilas, Minister of Environment of Lithuania. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Fellow leaders, ladies and gentlemen, over the last decade, every corner of the globe has been affected by destructive consequences of climate change. And yet today, despite all the warning signs, the global community is far from reaching the goals of Paris Agreement. Our meeting represents another opportunity to act. A good start would be transitioning away from fossil fuels by tripling global renewable energy capacity and doubling energy saving efforts by 2030, as agreed last year in Dubai. Unfortunately, the first program assessment shows that our collective efforts were not enough. We can and must do better. My country, Lithuania, has already chosen an ambitious green transition. We are following through with clear commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions at least by 70% by 2030, compared to 1990s level, and become climate neutral country by 2050. By 2030, Lithuania's national electricity grid will turn green, with share of electricity from renewable energy sources reaching 100%. Our total installed solar and wind power has quadrupled since 2020 and is expected to more than double by 2026 in 2 years. Share of renewable energy in our heating sector is also to reach 100% in 2050. Today, Lithuania calls for ambitious and balanced outcome here in Baku, which means implementing all the elements of global stocktake decision. It will be crucially important for international community to increase mitigation ambition in line with 1.5 temperature goal. We must move towards the long-term resilience and reach new agreement in new collective quantified goal on climate finance. This goal should be realistic and closely linked to mitigation efforts in every single country. The quantum of the goal must be linked to expanded group of contributors, reflecting evolution of countries' economic capabilities and increasing shares of global greenhouse gas emissions, including the present ones, not only historical ones. Finally, I also encourage international community to address enormous environmental damage caused by Russia in its war of aggression against Ukraine, as mentioned in Ukraine's statement. Lithuania supports establishment of international platform that would make Russia accountable for consequences of its action, including damage on its environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Fernando Andres Lopez Larrianaga, Minister of Environment of El Salvador. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Señor Presidente, Excelencias, distinguidos delegados, agradezco a Azerbaiyán por su hospitalidad como anfitrión de esta 29ª Conferencia de las Partes. Represento a El Salvador, una nación en el corazón de Centroamérica, conocida por su gente, la riqueza de sus volcanes, sus playas, el surf de clase mundial y ahora por ser uno de los países más seguros del mundo. El cambio que ha tenido El Salvador en los últimos años ha sido el resultado de tomar decisiones que beneficien a los ciudadanos, quienes ratificaron el voto de confianza a nuestro gobierno en febrero de este año. El clima nos afecta, y mucho. Nuestro país es impactado año con año con fenómenos hidrometeorológicos que suceden cada vez más frecuentemente y son cada vez más extremos. En estas últimas semanas, nuestra región ha experimentado los efectos de varios fenómenos climáticos que han puesto en riesgo la vida de nuestros ciudadanos. En este momento es donde deben fortalecerse los lazos de hermandad entre las naciones para trabajar por el bienestar de todos. La realidad climática en nuestra región tiene impactos económicos profundos. ¿Cuánto le cuesta al país un cierre de carretera por inundaciones repentinas? ¿Cuánto le cuesta a la empresa privada no poder mover mercadería o materia prima? ¿Cómo afecta la vida de las personas los desplazamientos forzados por fenómenos climáticos? ¿Cuántas conferencias pasarán para que el mundo vea la realidad climática de nuestras naciones? Los invito a reflexionar. La teoría y la práctica no siempre son iguales. Nuestra ubicación es privilegiada porque estamos en un punto estratégico del continente americano, sirviendo como un puente natural entre el norte y el sur. Sin embargo, estamos en el epicentro de la crisis climática y a pesar que El Salvador emite solo el 0.04% de las emisiones globales de gases de efecto invernadero, sufrimos desproporcionadamente sus consecuencias. Enfrentamos cambios en los patrones de lluvia, eventos hidrometeorológicos extremos, sequías prolongadas y aumento de las temperaturas. Todo ello son consecuencias devastadoras para nuestra infraestructura, nuestros medios de vida y nuestros ecosistemas. Esto nos obliga a declarar emergencias nacionales con frecuencia y ante esta realidad nuestra prioridad siempre ha sido estar preparados para proteger la vida de la población y la economía nacional, comprometiéndonos a enfrentar los desafíos ambientales a través de acciones reales. Uno de los logros más recientes de nuestro gobierno ha sido la conversión de deuda por naturaleza más grande en la historia del país, de $1.000 millones. Esta histórica medida asegura recursos para la conservación conservación de cuencas hidrográficas, especialmente la cuenca de nuestro río más caudaloso, el río Lempa, una de las principales fuentes de agua para nuestra nación. Este compromiso garantiza medios de implementación para la conservación de ecosistemas, restauración ambiental y la seguridad hídrica de nuestro país. A esto agrego que hemos desarrollado una estrategia de financiamiento climática destinada a movilizar recursos que nos permiten implementar acciones en sectores prioritarios. Esta estrategia tiene un enfoque de doble dividendo, no solamente impulsa la adaptación y la mitigación frente a los efectos adversos del clima, sino también promueve el desarrollo sostenible mediante la creación de empleos verdes, mejorando la calidad de vida de nuestra población. El Salvador trabaja. Como país estamos impulsando la electromovilidad y las energías renovables. Nuestra matriz energética está conformada por el 91% de energías renovables, además de apostar por la reconversión de nuestras industrias, asegurando que esas inversiones no solamente reduzcan emisiones, sino que también generen oportunidades económicas para nuestros ciudadanos. El Salvador trabaja en la creación de un mercado nacional de carbono con el fin de establecer opciones económicas viables que beneficien a nuestros ecosistemas. Somos referentes en el monitoreo y gestión de sistemas de alerta temprana. Esto nos permite analizar proyecciones y generar alertas tempranas que son parte fundamental del Sistema Nacional de Protección Civil. Los efectos adversos del clima en nuestro país son evidentes. En las últimas 3 décadas, los desastres climáticos han generado pérdidas equivalentes al 13.3% de nuestro Producto Interno Bruto, afectando principalmente al sector agropecuario, transporte y vivienda. En términos humanos, más de 1.9 millones de personas han sido afectadas y lamentamos la pérdida de cientos de vidas consecuencia de estos eventos extremos. El Salvador está comprometido para enfrentar el riesgo climático. El futuro no se espera, se construye. Y hoy, cada acción que tomemos es una semilla para el mundo que dejaremos a las próximas generaciones. Es el momento de actuar, no hay tiempo que perder. Gracias.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome Ms. Umaira Tagieva, Deputy Minister of Ecology and Natural Resources of the Republic of Azerbaijan. You have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, on behalf of the Republic of Azerbaijan, I would like to express our deep